The Pistons apparently have 3 front runners for their head coaching opening. But the question is that I've been asked from one of you guys is whatever coach that gets hired, will they be pushing the 2 big lineup? We'll talk about that in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Ku Cahill. You can find me over on Twitter at Ku Cahill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by PricePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's PrizePicks.com. Use promo code LOCKEDON. Today's episode is a mailbag episode. I'm going to be answering all the questions that you guys have sent in. The first 2 segments will be built around 2 questions that I got from somebody, which I think is a good way to segue into the coaching search. The first segment we'll get into soon is a question from one of you guys asking, will whatever coach the Pistons hire, will they be pushing the 2 big lineup? We'll talk about that later on. We'll talk about how scared am I to lose the first overall pick in the lottery. And then later on, we'll talk about, could Mikal Bridges be a good add to this team this offseason if they could try to pull off a trade for him? Is that even possible for the Pistons? We'll talk about all that a little bit later. But first, I got to answer this question that you guys asked about the head coaching search. And this is coming off the heels of James Edwards III putting out an article a few days ago. And this is straight from his article, quote, per team and league sources, Bucks assistant coach Charles Lee, Pelicans assistant coach Jarron Collins, and overtime elite head coach Kevin Ollie are the current early front runners for Detroit's head coaching job. So we have 3 front runners right now. That does not mean that the coaching search is over. That does not mean maybe another coach come into the fray. Who knows? But right now, as of April 23rd, when I'm recording this, we do have 3 front runners for this job. And a question that I got after this article was sent, after I asked 4 questions from you guys, I was sent this question from Kurt Zamara on Twitter. He says, of the coaches you know are on the Pistons' radar currently, do any of them seem to be the type to want to continue the 2 big lineup? If not, does that mean the Bagley experiment is over or less likely to bring Wiseman back? So I think this is an interesting question. I wanted to talk about this article from James nonetheless, so I'm glad I got this question. To answer the question about the 2 bigs, I think Charles Lee, if they were to hire Charles Lee, I think it would say that they're very interested in continuing the 2 big lineup. Charles Lee is coming from the Milwaukee Bucks. Honestly, when we talked about Charles Lee on the podcast a few days ago, this was not something that came into my mind. It should have. I don't know why it didn't. But it wasn't one of the first things that came to mind. The first thing that came to my mind was that they run a lot of drop coverage over in Milwaukee. So if they were to hire Charles Lee, do they look at Duren as more of a drop big than a switching big? That was the first thing I thought about. But I'm glad I got this question because that's right. He will be coming over from Milwaukee if the Pistons did hire him. And Milwaukee runs Giannis and Brook Lopez. They run Giannis and Bobby Portis. They run Bobby Portis and Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez. They run a lot of 2 big lineups. Now, obviously, they do have times when they run Giannis at the 5 and go with like 4 spacers or whatever. But they run a lot of 2 bigs over there in Milwaukee. So if the Pistons were to hire Charles Lee, I think probably that would mean that they'd be interested in going with the 2 big lineup, and he kind of echoes those. Will kind of push that message that's coming from the front office. He kind of echoes that message if they were to go with Charles Lee. Jarron Collins, he has experience. Excuse me. He's currently the assistant coach with the Pelicans. He also was on Steve Kerr's staff when they won the championship in 2015 as a player development coach. He was promoted to the assistant coach of the Warriors in 2015. He also was part of the championship teams from 17 and 18. He's now, like I said, he's now with the New Orleans Pelicans, so I don't know if the 2 big lineup is something that he necessarily would like to run. I'm sure, look, we don't really know anything, but based off where they've been and based off who they coached under, their coaching tree, I don't think that Jarron Collins would be one to run 2 bigs unless that 4th guy, the 4, is like a Draymond Green type, where he's a great short roll passer, and they have someone who can, get that kind of gravity in the pick and roll with Steph and Clay do. But with the way the Warriors play, they oftentimes run Draymond at the 5 and run 4 spacers, move the ball quickly, side to side, space the floor, etc. I would think that probably would not be the case. And also with overtime elite head coach Kevin Ollie, I'm not sure much about him at all. So I don't know what he would like to do. But based off those two guys' past that we just talked about, I would assume if they went with Charles Lee, 2 bigs would probably be the route that they'd want to take in that scenario. Another thing I want to mention with the head coaching hires, I've seen a lot of questions and a lot of people talk about the 2 bigs. And this is something I want to say here. If the Pistons want to run 2 bigs, if Troy Weaver wants to run 2 bigs, whatever coach they hire will be running 2 bigs. Like he's not going to be hiring a coach that doesn't believe in running the system or doesn't believe in running this team the way Troy Weaver seems fit. So if Troy Weaver's already decided that 2 bigs is something he wants to do, whatever coach, he's likely looking for a coach that will echo that message and execute his message to the best possible way in his mind. So it's not really about the coach that they hire, to me, about whether they continue the 2 bigs. It's really just about how does Weaver feel. If this is the route he wants to take, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what coach they get because they're going to echo what he wants. So they could hire Charles Lee, Jaron Collins, Kevin Ollie. They could hire Chris Quinn. They could hire any of these coaches that's been rumored. If Weaver wants 2 bigs ran, 2 bigs will be ran. So that's why I'd like to get out there to you guys. I've seen a lot of you guys ask that question about what's going on with that. So let me know what you guys think about that. Do you guys think if they go with Charles Lee, they'll be looking more the Milwaukee Bucks assistant coach? Do you guys think that they'll be going back to the 2 big lineup again next season? Do you think no matter what coach they'll hire, they'll be going to the 2 big lineup next season? Do you think that's the right decision? Let me know all that in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at KukaHill. Coming back, we'll talk about whether I'm scared to lose the first overall pick in the lottery. We'll talk about that when we come back. But first, I've got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, PrizePicks. So we got a new thing going on at PrizePicks, a $1 million daily Superflex promotion. Every day of the NBA playoffs and finals, one PrizePicks user will win a chance at becoming a millionaire. One entry will be placed after 8 a.m. Eastern Time, will be randomly selected each day. Whoever placed that entry will be given a 6-pick flex with the following payouts. 6 correct picks, $1 million. 5 correct picks, $80,000. 4 correct picks, $16,000. Full details can be found at PrizePicks.com/1million. You must opt in at this link to be eligible for the $1 million entry. Once you opt in, all you have to do is play the game like normal, and you could be the lucky winner. So how does it work? You pick 2 to 6 players to see if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, and you could win up to 25 times your money on any entry. And PrizePicks offers projections on any sport available that you watch. I'm telling you, they have NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, women's sports, women's college sports, men's college sports, soccer, WNBA. They have everything. If I haven't named it, I'm telling you, it's there. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's just that easy. Safe and fast withdrawals, currently operational over 30 states and Canada. Download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports today. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON and sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Again, they got a new promotion going on every day of the NBA playoffs finals. One PrizePicks user will win a chance at becoming a millionaire. To find out all this info, head over to PrizePicks.com/million. And then I gotta tell you guys about another one of our sponsors, Nissan. So the Pistons aren't playing, so they can't possibly win my Nissan's Most Electric Player of the Week. That's brought to you by the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya. So I'm going to pick my favorite player in the playoffs over the week from here on out. And my favorite player, my Most Electric Player of the Week this week in the playoffs is Steph Curry. Steph Curry, I feel like, is the best show in sports, man. I just got done watching their game against the Sacramento Kings. Game 4, they pull it off. They've gone back. They've tied the series at 2-2. Steph's shot is just so elegant. He has elegant drives. His touch is just elegant. Like, everything about Steph Curry on the offensive end is, I think the best word for it, literally, is elegant. And people forget, really, they don't give him enough credit for how powerful his drives are, too. Combine the touch of his outside shot, how elegant his outside shots are, combined with how powerful his drives can be and his finishes around the rim, I think he's the best show in sports. So Steph Curry is Nissan's most electric player of the week for me this week. 2023 Nissan Ariya packs pin you to your seat power and premium intelligence all in one EV. The all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya, the EV for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. We're continuing the Mailbag episode where I answer all the questions that you guys sent in. If you guys would like to participate in the next Mailbag episode, leave a question down below in the comment section, put hashtag Mailbag, or you can tweet at me at Kukahill, put hashtag Mailbag, and then send in the question, and I'll be sure to answer it on the next one. This question was asked by Adam, at Woodward Sports. He asked, a scale of 1 to 10, how terrified are you of the Pistons not landing the number 1 pick? So before I answer this question, we're going to head over to Tankathon right now. We're going to click Sim Lottery, just for the heck of it. I haven't done one in a minute. And the Pistons win the number 1 overall pick here. So in this scenario, we are in perfect position, and there's nothing to worry about. How scared am I of losing the number 1 overall pick? This is the thing. Last year, I got burnt. Because when the Pistons fell to 5 last year, I was a wreck. I was so mad. I was like, you know what? It's over. We went through this last season for nothing. We fall from 2 to 5. Like, this was worthless. We're going to miss out on Paolo. We're going to miss out on Chet. We're going to miss out on Jabari. Like, I was so mad. I was just so angry. But at 5, they ended up getting Jaden Ivey, and it paid off. Jaden Ivey looks like he's going to be a star. So, I want to say this before I give my answer, that there is a chance. There's always a chance that the Pistons may fall to 5, and they still are able to find that diamond in the rough. Instead of being at the very top of the draft and getting the best prospect available, they may be able to find that diamond. So, I just want to make that clear before I answer this question. Now to answer the question, I'm at number 10. I'm at absolutely a 10. And this is why. Look, I've had Dope on the podcast, who will have him on the podcast again in the future to talk about the draft. We'll have Hal on the podcast. We'll have Richard Stamen, Locked On's very own draft person. We'll have Rafael Barlow on the podcast. We're going to get a bunch of draft scouts on this podcast. We'll get a bunch of them. We'll talk about these prospects. But based off all the things I've read this far, and based off all the people that I listen to, the people I trust when it comes to the draft, the people I read and I listen to, this seems to be a deep draft class. With a lot of role players, a lot of guys that should stick in the NBA, and a lot of guys with some high potential. But the Pistons have the number 1 lottery odds. They finished with the worst record in the entire NBA, the second worst season in franchise history, in the draft with Victor Wembanyama. And if the Pistons were to get Victor Wembanyama, everything would change. Now, they could fall to 2 and get Scoot and be good. They could fall to 3, 4, 5 and end up with one of the Thompson twins, Brandon Miller, Jarris Walker. And I'm sure a lot of Pistons fans would be happy with it. And I'm sure one of those players, maybe even all of those players, turn out to be fine players. A lot of them maybe even turn to be good players. Scoot, I expect to become a great player. I'm sure all of them could become those things. But not a single one of them will be Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama is like the best prospect in NBA history. Victor Wembanyama would change everything for the Pistons fan base. Or for this, not just for the fan base, but the organization, for the franchise. The Pistons would potentially be building a dynasty if they were to get Victor Wembanyama. Maybe not, let me take it back a little bit with the dynasty. They could be building a long-term contender year in and year out if they were to get Victor Wembanyama. You got Wemby, you got Cade, Jaden Ivey, and Jalen Duren. That's the best young core in the entire NBA. You got 2 guys, Cade and Victor, who are franchise guys. Heck, maybe even Ivy. Ivy maybe develops into 1. I don't think he'll be like a number 1 guy, Ivy. I think he'll be a great number 2 or number 3. But maybe, to act like he doesn't have the potential to be like a number 1, he has the chance to. He has the potential. It's a slim chance. Not everyone hits their ceiling, but Ivy could become that good too. So the Pistons realistically could have like 2.5 at their peaks. 2.5 franchise players on their team, all homegrown. And then we wouldn't have to worry about them going out in free agency, having to get someone, having to make a big deal in the trade market to get that guy. They would have it right here, right now, homegrown, with Victor Wembanyama. I am terrified of not getting that chance. If they, with them having the first odds, and I know the top 3 odds all have the same, etc. I understand. But with them finishing with the worst record in the draft that has Victor, if they weren't to get the number 1 overall pick, I'd cry. I'm gonna be so sad. I'm gonna be so sad. Now again, that does not mean that if they fall to 2, they can't get a great player. That doesn't mean if they fall to 3, they can't get a great player, or 4, or 5. It doesn't mean they can't get a great player at one of those spots, okay? But once again, they will not be Victor Wembanyama, and even if they do become great players, they will not change the franchise. They will not change the direction of the franchise as quickly and as more importantly, just no one will have a bigger impact on this franchise than Victor. Like, they have to get him. They have to absolutely get him. I need him. I need Victor on the Pistons. We need it. After this season we just witnessed, we absolutely need Victor Wembanyama on this team. So that's how scared I am. I'm scared of it. Again, they could get someone good if they fall, but they won't be Victor. They will not be Victor. Let me know what you guys think about that, though. I'm interested to see if you guys feel the same way or not. Another question that I was asked from one of you guys, Jason, on Twitter. He says, how would you address the small forward and power forward positions if you were the GM of the Pistons? Are you trading or keeping Bojan? This is assuming we get the 3rd pick and one of the wings that we are interested in don't leave their current teams. So I think that it will be addressed by the draft. I think they'll get a wing in the draft, most likely, unless they get 2 and they want to go scoot. They will be getting a wing or a forward or a power forward, whatever. So I think the draft will address it. I think they expect Livers to step up into the position of the backup 4 or 3, or not backup 4, the backup 3. And they always have the option of keeping Bojan, though I think they could possibly trade Bojan for another pick in this wing-heavy draft and get a wing. So I think that if they're not able to get some of their top, priorities in free agency, let's say like if Cam Johnson's like at the top of their list, if they're not able to get Cam Johnson, I think they'll address it through the draft. Either bring back Bojan or trade Bojan for another pick in the draft to get a wing. Or maybe even trade Bojan and someone else attached with him to get a wing that they think will better fit the team. So I'm not too worried about them addressing the wing position somehow. Obviously, you got to be worried that they address it with the right players. But with what Weaver said after the season, he specifically mentioned the wing position needing to be improved. He specifically mentioned the wing defense needing to be improved. I have no doubts that they're going to attack that wing position and that the wing room will look completely different next season. What I'm worried about is will it be filled up with the right guys? Will they go after the right guys, and will their signings or trades or picks, will it be the right wings to get? But no one should be concerned about them simply addressing it. If they were to leave this offseason, I'll tell you this. If they were to leave this offseason without even addressing the wing room, we would have bigger questions to be answering than just next season. There's no way that after this past season, what we witnessed from that wing room, with what even Weaver said after the season about the wing room, there's no way that they don't address it. So I think they'll address it through the draft. I do think they'll try to make some signings in free agency, but if they can't do that, I think they'll either bring back Bojan or trade Bojan and attach someone else with him to get a wing that they think better fits the team. I'm not too concerned about it, though. I think Weaver will get it done. And then final question before we move on. This one's from Save Us Adam Silver on Twitter. I don't know what you need Adam Silver to save. Oh, the Pistons. Fair enough. If you could only keep one, who would you keep on the Pistons out of James Wiseman, Stu, and Bagley? Well, Bagley's not even a question because I don't like his contract at all. So if I was able to just get rid of Bagley's contract, I would do that. Then it comes between Wiseman and Stu. And I understand Wiseman has this potential. I understand Wiseman has a lot of this raw talent. I understand all that with Wiseman. But I think this is clearly Stu. And I'm not even the biggest Isaiah Stewart fan. I still have a lot of questions with Isaiah Stewart. But Isaiah Stewart, at the very least, has proven something that these 2 other guys haven't. And that's the ability to play defense. And that's the ability to do something in the NBA that is translatable to the playoffs that could be valuable. Doesn't mean maybe it won't be valuable enough. We'll talk about Stu later on in the offseason. But he has a skill that translates to the playoffs. He has a skill on the defensive end that will keep him on the floor. These other 2 guys are horrific defensively. Actually, you know what? I think Wiseman's horrific defensively. I actually think Bagley got a little better, but he's still not good on defense at all. Stu is. And he's the one out of both of them who has shown I gets the most potential to be an outside threat, catch and shoot wise from deep. So I think it's not even close. You gotta go with Stu there. And again, this is coming from a guy who's I don't think anyone would consider me a guy who's high on Stu, but it's clearly Stu. Let me know what you guys think about that one though. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kukahill. Coming up, I've had a ton of you guys, and when I say a ton of you guys, I mean at least 50 of you guys, legit, over the last week. Ask me, should the Pistons go after Mikal Bridges? Can they go after Mikal Bridges? Is it even possible to get Mikal Bridges? So we'll talk about Mikal Bridges when we come back. But first, I've got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, Ultimate Pro Basketball GM, which is the coolest game that I've played on my phone in a long time. I've always thought I could be a great GM. As it turns out, it's not all that easy. If you've had the same thought and have fantasized about managing your own basketball franchise, go and download Ultimate Pro Basketball GM right now. The game allows you to manage every strategic aspect of a franchise, playing through seasons, and leading your franchise and fans to glory as you build a historic dynasty. In the simulation, you're responsible for dealing with challenging personalities, both players and coaches, hiring the right coaches and assistants, trading and training players and making draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency and the draft and all the ups and downs of multiple seasons. All this in a challenging, realistic game world. Ultimate Pro Basketball GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. For all of you guys out there that believe that you guys could build the better team than Troy Weaver could, for all of you guys who believe you guys could build the Pistons in a better way, could build the Pistons into becoming a championship contender, go play this game. And if you guys are able to win a championship, send me a screenshot on Twitter. If you're able to, send me a screenshot in the YouTube comments. Send me a screenshot, and if you prove to me that you've won a championship on this, we might have a little reward that we might do with the podcast. So let me know all that. But Locked On Pistons listeners also get 100% free boost to their franchise when you're using the promo code Locked On. So that'll help you in your quest if you want to participate in this. So make sure that you check it out. To download the game, just visit probasketballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up on the app stores. That's probasketballgm.com. Ultimate Basketball GM. Start your dynasty today. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button at the YouTube channel. I would really appreciate it. Or you guys can leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. So I tweeted out on, what date was this? April 22nd, 2023. I asked for questions for a mailbag episode with Locked On Pistons. And we got, I believe, over 40 questions on Twitter for this. And I'm going to tell you guys that I think at least 15 of them were about Mikal Bridges. Can the Pistons get Mikal Bridges? Should they go after Mikal Bridges? What pick would you trade for Mikal Bridges in the draft? 15 questions, just all about Mikal Bridges. So let me just get you guys my feelings on Mikal Bridges. I freaking love Mikal Bridges. I think he's amazing. I think he's absolutely fantastic. I think he's proven that he could be a high-volume scorer on a team. I think he's shown the ability to be an all-star in his time with Brooklyn Nets. And if he's able to score with how he did in Brooklyn while maintaining the kind of defensive versatility, the defensive impact that he has as one of the best wing defenders in the entire NBA, combine both those things, what he did in Brooklyn, I think he could. Look, maybe I'm going too far with this, but if he's able to maintain his defense next season while scoring how he did with Brooklyn, which, by the way, was 26 points on 47% from the field, 37% from deep on 6.7 attempts, 53% on twos, and damn near 90% on free throws, 6.6 attempts a game. Highly efficient scorer on 26 points a game, and his first time ever being a high-volume scorer for a team with that defense. That might be all NBA player right there. I'm not going to lie to you. I may be jumping the gun, but in 2 years, 3 years, if you happen to see him on one of those or happen to get some votes, just remember Kuka Hill told you on April 24th that this could happen. But at the very least, he's going to be an all-star. I think he's definitely going to be an all-star in the Eastern Conference for the next few years if he's able to keep doing this. I love him. I've been a big fan of his for years. But even after what he did with Brooklyn, that just made me even higher on him. But if that made me even higher on him, what do you think it did for the rest of the league? Everyone's going to want Mikal Bridges. Everyone. The Brooklyn Nets just got swept, and it's already starting. We've already getting the rumors about Mikal Bridges being traded. Who's going to want Mikal Bridges? What can they get from Mikal Bridges? So, do I think the Pistons should get him? No. They just don't have the assets to get him. And the amount of the assets that they do have that would require to get him just wouldn't make sense from the Pistons' end once they get to that many assets. I'm talking about like Jaden Ivey or something. The Pistons aren't doing that. So, no, I don't think the Pistons could get him. I'm interested to see who ends up getting him because he's on an amazing contract, too, for what he was doing with Brooklyn. He's going to gain $21 million this year, $23 million the next, and $24 million the next year. That's going to be an absolute steal all before he turns 30. That might be the best contract in the NBA, value-wise. It very well may be the best valued contracts in the NBA going into next season. And with Brooklyn having a ton of picks, Damian Lillard possibly being interested in joining Mikal Bridges, who he's close with, I also think it's very likely Brooklyn just doesn't let him go. They might just keep him and build around him, build with him. So I don't think Mikal Bridges is likely, though. Again, you guys know I've talked about him on this podcast a lot. I love Mikal Bridges, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm at 99.9999% that if he was on the trade market, the Pistons wouldn't have a chance at getting him. But for the question of what's the highest pick I would trade for him, number 3. I'd trade the 3rd pick in the draft for him. Not the 2nd. I want Scoot if we get the 2nd. And first, obviously, you get Victor. But after the top 2, I'd trade that number 3 for Mikal Bridges. Simple as that. That's how high I'm on Mikal Bridges. He's really freaking good. All right, but move on past that. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are on Mikal Bridges. But another question that I got at least 5 times. Another Brooklyn net. Cam Johnson. Should the Pistons go after Cam Johnson? How much would you want to pay Cam Johnson? Should they trade for Cam Johnson? Pistons may very well have a few future Brooklyn Nets on their roster next season. I think Yuta Watanabe would be a great signing in free agency. He would be very cheap. He hits outside shots. He'd be a great corner 3-point shooter. And he also has length, and he's tall. He has size, and he's a sneaky athlete. So I think he'd be a great signing for the Pistons. And I also would like them to go after Cam Johnson. So, yeah, I think he should be at the top of the Pistons list, Cam Johnson. How much would I be willing to pay him? $25 million with how the contracts are going up, the new CBA with the new deal, salary cap's going up. I think $25 million is like where I'd be okay going at. As you go higher than $25 million each year, that's I start to get more and more comfortable each million you go up. $26 million, okay, yeah, I do it, but I'm a little less comfortable. $27 million, maybe do it. I'm starting to get a little uncomfortable. 28, okay, now you're pushing it a little bit. You're definitely pushing me. I might still do it, but I'm definitely not as comfortable. I'm getting uncomfortable. $29 million, I'm out. Now we're getting close to 30 now, and now I'm just out. That's too much. So that's how I feel. 25, I feel is like would be my initial offer, and then each time I go up, I'd get less and less comfortable with it. But Cam Johnson for sure, another guy that joined the Brooklyn Nets and was just fantastic for them. Another guy joining the Brooklyn Nets from the Phoenix Suns. He played pretty well for them. Since arriving in Brooklyn, 46% from the field, 37% from deep on 6.2 attempts, 16.6 points with the Nets, which would have been a career high for him. He's been routinely throughout his career a 40% three-point shooter. And he also showed that he maybe could do a little bit more with the ball in his hands. Not nothing crazy, but maybe a little bit more than people thought he could do. So, and he's also a really good defender. He has size. He could scale up to the forward position. He could hit movement threes. Like, I'm very interested in Cam Johnson. I think he should be their number 1 option. So, in free agency, that is. I think he should be their number 1 priority, better word, I should say, this offseason. So, let me know what you guys think about Cam Johnson in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I got like 30 different questions also. We're going to have another Mailbag podcast at the end of this week where I'll answer more of these questions. So, stay tuned if I didn't answer your question. So, stay tuned for that. And if you guys want to be heard on the next one, again, comment down below or over on Twitter, #Mailbag, and I'll add it to the list. The final question I'm going to answer. This is probably the most fun question that I've ever been asked. And it's funny. It's absolutely hilarious. So, look. Someone on Twitter, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's XGSS. I'm sorry. There's no way. I don't know what this is. I don't know what the name is. I'm sorry. But I get asked, if you were a player on the Pistons, would Locked On Pistons Coup complain about Coup, the Pistons basketball player? That is probably my favorite question that you guys have ever asked me. And yes, I would destroy. I would destroy basketball Coup if I was if I had to watch myself play for the Pistons. and I got signed, I had to watch me play, oh my God, I would obliterate them. I take contested middies. I walk into Josh Smith 2s. If you step back a little bit, I'm pulling up from there. I take contested 3-point shots. All my shots. Literally my whole repertoire, if you watch like the clips I put on Twitter when I go hoop, I'll be recording my hoop sessions and posting clips. If you see more than half my clips are me just taking jumpers off the bounce. Pull up 3, fade away midi, high post midi from the pull up midi from the high post. Josh Smith long 2 pull up midi, foot on the line pull up midi, from deep pull up 3-point shot, and then even around the rim contested floaters. I take shots high off the glass. Like nothing about my game, unless I'm getting all the way to the rim and laying up, which I can do. I'm just not as effective as I once was. I'm not the athlete I once was. Sadly, I'm getting back though. I will be getting back. I do like to get to the rim a lot though. Don't get confused. I'll get to the rim a lot, but I love my pull-up middies. I love my pull-up jump shots. I'm a way more comfortable shooter off the bounce, and I would destroy it. I would destroy myself. Imagine if we had to go out here and watch somebody outside of Kay Cunningham go out there who's 5'10" and just take contested middies all the time. Josh Smith long 2s. Oh my goodness. I'd be the most hated player in Pistons history. Now, I'll wrap it up with this. Just because I would destroy myself if I had to analyze me on an NBA court does not mean I won't destroy anybody who tries to challenge me out in pickup. If you guys ever want something, show up in a pickup session. I'll definitely show you guys what's up. But pickup is not NBA basketball, and I don't know if Kuka Hill would fit with NBA basketball in 2023. Maybe back mid-2000s, late 2000s when the middies, the contested shots were like what happened. But now, oh yeah, I'd get benched instantly. I'd get benched instantly and probably would never see the court again. But that's just what would happen with that. That's probably my favorite question, though, for real, that you guys have ever asked me. But thank you guys for listening. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. Hit that subscribe button at the YouTube channel. If you guys want your questions answered on the next Mailbag podcast, again, hashtag Mailbag in the comments or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Enjoy these playoff games. And until next time, peace out.